شرفتونا اليوم، شكرا لجيتكم. كثير مبسوطين نشوفكم هون اليوم، كثير وجوه بنعرفها، كثير عالم جديدة، كلكم شرفتونا طبعا. اليوم معنا من ساوث أفريقيا، من جنوب أفريقيا، فاطمة وشيراز، هن سفراء لسوني ميدل إيست.
I love you guys already.
اليوم عنا ورشة بورتريه مع فاطمة وشيراز، ويلي بيحب يحضر بعد بكرة كمان رح نعلن بعد شوي، رح يكون في ورشة معهم كمان ترافل فوتوغرافي on Wednesday يوم الأربعاء إن شاء الله، كمان بتشرفونا. رح أترك I'll leave the floor to you. I don't know how to translate that in Arabic, but thank you so much for coming and it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Oh, lovely. I love that. I love feedback. You can see everybody's stomach is full after having a lovely iftar. Thank you, Kuwait. Thank you for having us. We really do appreciate it. It's our first time here. No pressure. Oh, love you. But again, thank you so much. It's going to be a very casual, laid back, I'll call it a workshop because you're going to learn a lot of things. But also it's going to be a case of getting to know us as creatives. And what we love as creatives is just sharing with everybody. So please don't hesitate to ask those questions. If you want to ask me something in the middle of the talk, please go ahead. We are here to learn. And this is the best way you're going to learn about this art, right? So let's get straight into it. Bismillah. This is us in color. As you can see, the advert was in black and white, but this is us. My TTL photography started in, I would say, 2010, where Seraz was asked to photograph a friend's daughter's wedding. And in South Africa, we also have a separate male and female events. So at these weddings, specifically the Muslim weddings, Seraz threw me into photography. I was never interested in photography. It was never my passion. I wanted to be a physiotherapist. I am intelligent. And then I just learned the basics, got into it, came home with 3,000 photographs. I was just snapping whatever with no direction whatsoever. It was our first wedding. And alhamdulillah, it was a chilled out client. And they were very thrilled with the photos. But what I loved about it was the fact that our skill and our art grew within our close-knit friends and family. And I loved the social part of wedding photography. I'm not going to be emphasizing so much about wedding photography, but it's a case of, trust me, being a wedding photographer, you learn a lot about the other genres of photography, especially when you're dealing with people. It takes a special kind of skill to be a people's person. And I love sharing this part of it because I find that the industry is getting filled up with too many of introverts. And it's going to come to a point in your career where you've got to break your shell, get out of that box you're in, and put yourself out there as a creative. And I'm loving the fact I'm seeing so many females here. We were just having this discussion with AAB earlier, how in South Africa, in specifically the Durban city that I'm from, whenever I have these get-togethers and networking, there's about 2 or 3 females joining the get-together out of like 20 men. And I'm going to go into about the challenge that I've been through as a Muslim female photographer in South Africa a little later. But for now, these are our social media handles. I love LinkedIn because it makes me look a little bit more corporate and professional. But our biggest one so far is our website and Instagram. If you guys are following us, you will see. Don't even get wowed by the followers. You know how Instagram is. It lies to you most of the time. But I think the most important thing when it comes to social media is the engagement you get out of it and how far you can push your brand on those platforms, right? And brand identity is just as important when you are a creative. It doesn't only belong to a corporate business. You as a business, you firstly, number one, as a photographer, you are the walking advert for your business, especially when you're dealing with people in portraiture, wedding photography, anything that has to do with people. Your mannerisms, how you carry yourself, I am TTL photography when I'm working. My kids hate it because wherever I go, I'm meeting clients or people from the industry, and it's a case of standing there and talking like for about 5-10 minutes. But when you carry that responsibility of being the brand of your business, you find how easy it is for you to attract your desired clients, right? So, ta-da, this is our logo. So wherever you see that logo, it's us. I'm just going to give you a brief intro into the type of photography that we're into. In the slideshow, I focused mainly on portrait images, but pay very careful attention to the images because there's some questions I'm going to ask. You know, it's not a school. Don't stress about it. It's not an exam situation, but I'm going to ask you certain questions to see if you can recognize the setting or the approach I took towards those photographs. Short and sweet, but would you believe me if I tell you that most of those shots were taken with the one light setup? Believe me. Good. I'm that good. But with weddings and being a wedding photographer, it's a little bit different compared to being an in-studio photographer. In-studio is a little bit slower paced, more control compared to wedding photography, where you have to think on that spot. And given the situation that you're in through experience, you're walking into the venue or the scene you're going to be shooting in, and you are already reading the lighting situation. This comes with experience and also knowing your gear. Very importantly, if I know my camera system can handle low light situations, I will automatically know what ISO I'm going to be setting my camera on, the capability of my lens, and how much of power I'm going to need from my artificial lighting. Right? Again, as a creative, you're going to be prioritizing certain things like, are you going to prioritize skin tone? Do you want to prioritize all the colors in that scene? If you saw that picture with all the green dresses, right? It might have been, when you're looking at it, it might have been a case of, that looks really busy in that setting because it has a mountain in the background and all that greenery, but how are you going to make your subject pop in that image? So the more you give yourself the opportunity to experience shoots and even be an observer at a friend's shoot, the better you're going to be in the art and also knowing your gear. Very important.
The one thing that I think that we're trying to change in the industry, I'm not sure if it's a similar situation here in Kuwait, but in South Africa, is the mindset of portraiture being going to a studio, sitting down and having these shots taken. We, again, because we're coming from a wedding background, our portraits are a lot more environmental than your normal straightforward portrait where you're sitting and we're still incorporating artificial light. But we want to break that mindset of we need a studio to get certain images done, or to get certain images, I should say. So that's one of the big things that we are trying to change. So it's something that Fatimah is brilliant at. That's my wife. I need to say that. So
he's very brave. Yeah. Very brave.
So it's a case of, like Fatimah said, one of the things, or a few of the things that we're trying to do as well is, we found that a lot of people don't know their gear properly, and Fatimah's mentioned it before, earlier. And if you don't know your gear properly, you don't know what your gear is capable of, you're not using it to its full capacity. So a lot of times, if you do find that or if you do get nice images, we don't want those images to be flukes. We don't want it to be a once-off that the image was good. We want you to be able to repeat those images, because it's that repetition that shows you know exactly what you're doing. And it's because of that repetition, you'll know how to get it done easier, because it's not only about taking the photo, it's about your whole workflow then as well. Because taking the image is one small section or one small part of the process. When you upload your image, now the real process starts. And we're not even referring to Photoshop, because we don't use Photoshop. I don't know Photoshop very well. We use Lightroom, and the changes or the edits that we do are purely just whether it's going to be black and white or color. We adjust the colors because we try and match the colors to what they really should be or really are. And then your exposure here, and that's as far as we go in terms of editing. So if you know your gear, we are very big proponents of get the image right in camera as far as possible. Because once you get the image right in camera, your editing is a lot easier.
And talking about pace, I mentioned that studio photography slows you down a bit. You got time to think about your lighting setup and just do everything in your own pace as compared to weddings. Weddings from the start right till the end, and I mean start when you start shooting and when the client expects you to deliver the image is a little bit fast-paced unless you set your terms and say it'll be ready at a certain point in time. With that in mind, that's how we made our decisions based on our gear. That if I can get everything right in camera, it makes my post-production process easy. So efficient timeline that saves me space, where I'm not getting frustrated, because this is the one thing we found with creatives. They are very good at their skill, but when it comes to the editing part, it makes them really frustrated. So something is going wrong either in your gear choice or your skill. There's something you need to brush up. And this is how I learned as a self-taught photographer. If I didn't get it right in the final image, I'll actually delete it and go back to my camera and see where I went wrong. So majority of the time, it was a case of me pushing my gear to a point where it couldn't cope. So for example, I'm in a room that requires me to have an ISO of, say, 1,200. The gear I had at that time could only take me till 800, but I pushed it too much. I didn't put enough extra light into the image, onto my subject. So that made me move backwards. So I learned photography via my editing. That if I can get it all right in my camera, fantastic, my editing will be streamlined. What that also helps you to do is that now your approach to every shoot, whatever you are shooting, your approach is, I just need to leave that event or that shoot with 5 of my favorite pictures for my portfolio. The client will get everything. Exactly like wedding photography. They get their safe shots. And the safe shots are the typical portrait shots of family and of the bride alone. But my shots are the shots that's going to carry my brand forward. And the kind of photographs that I want to create for my style. Right? Exactly what you saw here. Right? For the bride, it must be like, oh my God, that's a bit too dramatic. But for me and my portfolio and as a business, I'm happy with those shots, right? And I also encourage that every shoot you enter, your mindset must be focused on, irrespective of what that client is like and how much they can work on your nerves, or whether you're dealing with a bridezilla. Enter into that shoot with, I'm leaving here with at least 3 images that I love and that I'll push forward, right? So understanding your gear, know what you want out of the shot, it takes your research, etc., and know your camera to know whether you will be able to achieve that shot, right? So another thing Seraz mentioned about portrait photography is that we get intimidated with the lighting setup. When we think about portraiture, we think about 5, 6 different kind of lights around us. Throughout the wedding photography that we've been doing all these years, my main light source was 1, key light, He was my light stand for all the shots. But because our weddings are vibrant, it already comes with a setup. The bride is gorgeously adorned in her makeup, hair, outfit. The only work I got to do is come there with my light, and I am already envisioning the shot.
That's why God give you a tone.
Ah,
Good light.
I improvise. It also saves me the money of buying a C-stand. Yeah, like,
I'm basically a walking C-stand to my wife. So
yeah.
Good.
I'm clever, so. It saves me the cost perfectly. Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to let a video play in the background, but basically that's giving you an insight of what's been happening when we became Sony ambassadors since 2018. We've been working, okay, quick rewind. We've been shooting, using the Sony cameras since the time we started. He's the historian here. He started off on Minolta. And
I'm ancient. I started photography before digital. When digital was still being developed, I started doing photography. So I started out on a Minolta 35mm film camera and upgraded as I needed to on film. And then when digital came along, the transition to Sony was natural, I should say, because Sony bought Minolta and so forth. So back in South Africa, we were those photographers when Sony was just starting out that were using Sony for a while. And in fact, we still joke about it now with some of the colleagues in the industry that we have, because some of those colleagues that looked at us and laughed and asked us why we're still using Sony, because at that point Sony had left South Africa. They now come to us and ask us for advice on Sony. So it's been a good journey, and my wife obviously made the right choice to stay with Sony. It's not me, right? So
yeah, he started off with Minolta, and at that point in time, just to be very transparent, that at the end of the day, we all start somewhere. And the Minolta lenses that he had fitted the Sony bodies that were coming out, were out at that time. And those were the full body, like DSLR shapes. And we improvised. We made it work. I knew the limit I had with that kit. With that kit. I stayed on my primes. Until today, I love my primes because they helped me in the environment I shot in. And it was in 2018 where we finally invested in brand new camera kits and mirrorless camera kits. And let me tell you, it has streamlined my work to the point where I look super fresh. I'm juggling 3 kids with it. So it's a personal choice, to be very honest with you. It's an artist and their tool. And if you can find something that fits together and complements you and the tool together, fantastic. You will eventually start seeing how you love your passion and you love the work. So 2018, we became Sony ambassadors, and it involved a lot of sharing and teaching, and this is what we love. I think this is the best part about the industry. We know how intimidating it can seem, and it can also be. From what I'm gathering, what AAB is doing right now is like the first time everybody is getting exposed to these kind of workshops, and that's amazing. I encourage you to come for every kind of workshop that they have, irrespective of the genre or what they are talking about. Because somewhere along the line, when it comes to your digital artwork, those workshops are going to come in handy, whether you employ somebody to do your AI or your post-production and stuff like that, right? So you will leave here fulfilled. You will leave here encouraged. These kind of gatherings are very encouraging. Do yourself a favor and go for it. And this series of images and the video was something we implemented in Durban. It had to do with content creating for small businesses. The one thing I observed working with the small businesses is that they didn't have the confidence to take this step and do their social media marketing properly. For example, not use a cell phone for your pictures. And the main line I used there was, if the photo is not taken properly, it's a misrepresentation of your product. And if you put your product out there, for example, like the color shade is wrong, if you're working with hijab and clothing, if the shade is wrong and your client is seeing it on social media, they're going to come to your store and like, no, but I want this color. And it's nowhere close to what you got hanging on the mannequin. So you don't want that kind of admin into your business, right? So it starts from how you present your store and your products moving forward, right? So getting a photographer for your business is really good. Or business owners, get into photography and invest into the kit. It really does take your business further, right? Okay, any questions? Am I making you think about your business? Not about your business, where you need to head with it. Good. Again, I'm open to questions, whether it's related or not. Go for it. Okay, portrait photography. These are a few tips that I find come in handy. I like to go into each of these images that I just randomly chose. Portrait photography rotates. It depends what you're looking for and the style you want to create out of it. You can choose natural light or artificial lighting. It's all about mastering light. Understanding light, the quantity of the light, and the quality of the light, right? So as a wedding photographer, my first priority was to learn artificial lighting, not to depend on natural light. Majority of our weddings are shot in a venue that's lit up by the deco artist and not to my favor. Because normally the subject is always in the dark. I don't know why, but the deco is set up. So how do I go about lighting up my subject? And that's how I had to learn about speed light, flash, strobes, constant light, etc. Okay? You will see single light, single light, single light. These two are natural. No, this was strobe balanced with natural light, and this was completely natural light. So learning the different types of lighting setups also is very important. Exactly what Seraz said. Do not envision portrait photography only to be in a studio setup. If you are versatile with your lighting, you can shoot anywhere. Anywhere. And it's all about starting with observing with your eyes. When you walk into the venue or the arena that you're shooting in, how's the lighting set up? Is it complementing the skin tone? Is it complementing the garment or the bride, etc.? Is it the type of lighting that you want? So first thing you do is observe. And then you add in your light, your favorable light. Right? So photos, again, portraiture photography is photos of individuals or groups of people, usually done in a studio. Can work on location if need be. I work on location. Unless the client for a business tells me we're going to do the shoot in a studio. Majority of the times, working on location has made me very versatile in the studio. Again, with experience, it comes practice, 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 practice. Very important. Even if it's at home with your kids and family, practice. It's really important. Take the opportunity as well to go to your retailers if they allow you to hire out gear. Hire it out. Take yourself out of your comfort zone. Get daring and dramatic with your setup. And then it's a process of elimination that we'll display in the demo a little later. But the more you put yourself in that scenario and get familiar with it, the easier it is for you to set up. And you will see as a photographer, the stress just lessens because you're not stressing when you're packing your bags, and you will just see exactly how you're going to pack your bag for that shoot instead of carrying your whole studio with you and going to the location. Right? It's about capturing the personality of a person or group using effective lighting, backdrops, and setups. Okay, so what does this have to do with wedding photography? Are we approaching our subjects in the right manner? How many of us are taking the time to get to know your subject? When you're dealing with the person, it's about getting to know that person and how you want to capture them in that image, right? Wedding photography, for example, no two brides are the same. No matter how robotic and systematic the wedding is at the reception, no two brides, it's the brides that make the event, are the same. So it's a case of me sitting down with them over a cup of coffee and chatting, getting acquainted. With that kind of approach, even with portraiture in studio, you are automatically building trust and comfort with your subject. And what happens in that scenario? She dissolves. She just like, okay, tell me what you want and I'll do it for you. And she will love every image because she's already comfortable with you. How many of us are making that approach or making that effort? You got to ask yourself a question. And that's the other thing we find with questions from creatives is they feel they're stuck somewhere. They're not getting the right kind of clients, or they have an amazing portfolio, but they're not getting any bookings. So go back, process of elimination. Your skill is amazing, your editing is amazing, your portfolio is magic. How about you as a person? Are you making them comfortable, or are you depending on the client on everything, right? So with wedding photography, I take that coffee break with them and get acquainted. I ask them questions from who's your designer, the deco artist, the deco artist, the makeup artist, hairstylist. Getting so familiar with the industry again, you're already running it through your mind. Okay, she got that makeup artist right, I know her style. She's getting that hairstylist. Okay, I know where she's heading with the whole style. She's getting that kind of dress. Okay, she's very daring. For her to pull off this garment or that dress or even that dress, this was automatic. She was a complete natural. She loves photos, so she absolutely effortless. But for them to have the confidence to wear these outfits already tells me, oh, I'm halfway there. I just need to make her comfortable in camera because it's not her friend or her cousin taking the picture with the phone. Right?
And just something to add on to that is, I mean, Fatimah's mentioned already having meetings and so forth with the client. I think another mindset change that needs to happen is that it's more about just the photography. It's way more than that. And everything that Fatimah's explained now points to, if they don't trust you as a photographer, you are not going to get the images that you want. And that those
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
How do you get the person to get loose?
That's exactly what
That's exactly what I explained. Do yourself a favor. The next shoot that you have with the person, whoever, invite them for a coffee. Get acquainted with them.
It starts before you even lift up
Before
your
you
camera.
even shoot the function.
Yeah, before you even walk into that studio. That if you can, I think this one died. Okay, can you guys hear me? If you can show them before you walk into the studio that they can trust you, then 90% of your job is done. Because again, if you don't know me, for example, you book me because someone said I'm a good photographer. But you get in the studio and it's still, you know what, you're still not sure if I know what I'm doing.
So I book the appointment and then we have coffee.
Yes.
You break the ice before. Don't meet, as far as possible, don't meet your client for the first time when you walk into the studio.
Yeah.
Because then you still need to break the ice. You
The-
haven't broken that ice yet. So rather do that before you even walk in. By the time you walk in, if you can be his friend by the time he sits on that chair, you get amazing.
And it is a process as well. So from experience, what we found is we need to cut time short when it comes to the shoot. So if the client is booking a 2-hour shoot, why are we always ending up at 3 and 4 hour shoot? It doesn't make sense. The money that's being paid to doesn't compensate for the 2 extra hours. Where are we going wrong? So it was a case of meeting the client, and that's the first step. And from there, they can pick up, okay, via email, I'm going to share the mood board with you. Participate. Let them participate with you. So they are part of the shoot. They understand where you're heading. You can also hear their opinions about maybe they don't like that dress or that kind of setup. This is what. The first question is always put them first. Yes, as creatives, we are very, very, what's that word? We are very protective over our art and style. You know, we have something envisioned, and there you are, and you're like, no, you're not going to do it. Be flexible. You're dealing with the person. There's insecurities. You need to help with the confidence levels. So if you can help with that, you can come out of there with one shot that you love. And that's all you need for your portfolio. That's the other thing as well, is as creatives, I know it's initially it's overwhelming, but over time when you give yourself the experience, you start prioritizing your shots, right? But comfort level, participate. They are a person as well, they exist. So the more you listen, yes, you have your style in mind, but the more you listen and show them that you want them to be part of the shoot, they'll just everything for you. Do whatever you want.
No, the one thing that we do in our business is the actual end product. A lot of people think that as a photographer, your end product is your photo. It's not your photo. Your photos are part of the product that you're delivering. Our product that we deliver is good service. If I can make you feel good, whether it's a portrait session or it's a wedding ceremony or any photographic session, if I can make you feel good, you will recommend me to whoever. So we always maintain that the photographs are not your product, it's part of your product. If that shift comes in, your customer service increases. And a lot of times, word of mouth is the best type of marketing. You've got Instagram and all those other platforms. But if you recommend me as perfect. We're back. If I give you good service, you are going to tell one of your friends, for example, and it grows exponentially in that sense. So we don't only rely on these platforms. These platforms are good to showcase your business and for marketing, but it's all about how you make your customer feel. And that even boils, we take it a step further back. When you approach or when you go into the situation with the wrong mindset, the people pick up on that. If I come in and I'm telling you, we need to hurry this up, yeah, sit there, and how are you going to feel at the end of the day? That's not, your images might seem okay, but trust me, those images are going to appear to be very rushed, and it comes through in the images. So it's all these things that you need to factor in if you are going to grow your business.
Good, okay, perfect. And then there are some creatives who go knee deep, well, we can say even neck deep, into the genre. And this is how I like to class them. It's the culture of the person that fascinates you. It's the psychology behind that person, or the lifestyle, or the theme that fascinates you. And you can take it completely out of context. Because sometimes as creatives, we overthink the shoot. We overthink a shot because we envisioned it in a certain way and not realizing, you know what, I don't need such a complicated setup. I just need a one-light setup that can probably showcase the texture on the subject's skin, because that age, let's just say the subject is about how long the person lived and what he's been through in history. So just the texture on his skin can help depict what the shoot is all about, right? So when we were part of the A7 R5 launch, the videographer and I, thank you for coming. The videographer and I sat down, and the only thing we were told by Sony was, this is the camera of the future. That's it. And we had to brainstorm ideas of how we can depict it based on our genres, right? So based on weddings and obviously portraiture, but weddings, we had to move towards futuristic style of weddings. Not sci-fi, but more futuristic. How do we see weddings coming out in the future now, right? Because the A7 R5 is the camera that has to be in everybody's bag. Well, it's in Siraj's bag, not my bag. Right here, we got together, we found a location in Pretoria. This is actually a museum of South African history. What we loved about it was the lighting setups. And believe me, this was at midday inside the museum. And there's a sun deck on top. The light was shining through, one light setup. Post-production, exposing it perfectly for the shot. In post-production, all I had to do was just edit some copy and paste into the blackness and blacken everything out so everybody's eye is drawn to the model. Captivating images, that's what you need to remember. And images that ask you questions. That's the type of portraiture you need to get into. Let people guess. Ooh, I wonder why it's like this. Or what's the story behind this individual? What's the story behind this portrait?
The other thing as well is we actually want to see a lot more environmental portraits. And that's portraiture with context. So you're not only looking at the subject, but you're seeing the subject in their environment. So, and obviously that depends on the space that you have to work with, and that would dictate which lenses you use and so forth. But all of this comes with experience. So it's a case, and we do this at every workshop. We tell all the attendees, shoot, 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 and shoot. The more experience you have, the easier it eventually becomes to get the images you want.
The other thing as well is assess the image as to what's attracting you to it. So for example, this image, even though it's on the third of the frame, there's something else that's pulling you closer besides her lighting. Leading lines, fantastic.
And there's a negative space also.
Negative space, yeah. And the leading line, most importantly, towards where I want your eyes to go.
I think these two ladies get discount vouchers.
Yeah,
right?
they answered all the questions there. See, we're organizing for you, not stressed, because you clapped the most for me. Right? When you walk into a shopping mall, this is how Seraz and I also learned about lighting setups. Walk into the shopping mall and you see a perfume banner. Why is that image so captivating? You can see in the eyes where the light is reflecting, what type of lighting. Sometimes you'll be able to see the key light and the reflector. Sometimes you won't be able to see any light, so it's probably a very strong side light, and in post-production they picked up the exposure. So if you can observe these small factors just from your eyes, just by looking at an advert or looking at a poster or banner, it's easy for you to take the shot and think of shots for your client.
But I have to warn you, it kind of spoils the shots for you because you end up looking at every image you walk past, trying to dissect it. So you'll spend an hour in the mall instead of just 5 minutes. Our kids don't like going to malls with us because of that reason.
We implemented the same thing in the Alpha Festival 2023. Yeah, 2023, sorry. Edit that part. Yeah, the concept really worked because we took inspiration from the movie Dune and we created up the setup. It's not a very wide angle, but you can see from the back the color palette and how we wanted to work the lighting as well. Very interesting, a lot of backlight. The key light was pretty far away from her, from both of them. And being in Africa, we just incorporated some African tribal kind of theme on him. And they're supposed to be representing two worlds or dimensions coming together, like a marriage, right? But the posing completely different. So can you see where I'm heading with when it comes to portraiture and the environment you can create? So this is deliberate, right? It's not factual, it's absolutely deliberate, where you come up with concepts with your team, you research about it, and then how the lighting can work, and the garments, the wardrobe, the makeup, the hair, and the type of models you want to have as well to portray and tell the story, right? So it was a major hit at the Sony Alpha Festival. And again, it was all about promoting the R5, yeah.
I just want to add as well, if you look at the lighting on the models, it's not your normal portrait light. So normally if you think of portraiture, you're thinking of a lot more softer light, more flattering. But here you can see the light is a bit harder, and as Fatimah pointed out, we had a very strong backlight, but it worked for the image. So again, it's a case of not only knowing your gear, but knowing how light works, knowing the difference between hard and soft.
Yeah.
But there is
Go.
also another
Behind,
That's
from
that's
behind,
that's
from
that's
behind.
backlight.
The one on his face.
No, no, no,
coming
it's
from
one.
here.
It's this
Yeah,
way.
there's
This way.
Yeah. So we wanted that hard light. So the key light wasn't as soft as people would normally think of when you're doing portraiture. But in this situation, that hard light gives you a bit more detail in the garment.
Another thing as well is notice something, two different skin tones. If I took that hard light and focused on her, she would have been washed out. So I focused it more on him. I dimmed it a little bit because with mirrorless, Sony mirrorless, your dynamic range, you can play around with it as long as your light source is perfect. We did use a softbox, but without the grid. And then I made it focus because she would have been very easy to pick up. And I didn't want too much falling on her. So, but he got very nice cheekbones too. So I wanted to emphasize on the look a lot. Right. Again, back to it, your requirements as a portrait photographer, a good understanding of your subject, exactly what I was. Sorry, I just want to adjust the mic. I'm hearing a bit. Fine? Okay. Are you guys okay with the sound?
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
In the last picture,
Sorry, Ma, sorry. Yeah.
why the background is showing, especially from here? I feel like it's
Disturbing.
Disturbing. Why it's not blurring or not bokeh?
Because you've seen it on a big screen.
Huh?
You've seen it on a big screen. No, I'm joking. Basically, this is now showing the environment of the
So you
setup.
want that?
Yeah. It's your call. You can go as wide as you want to showcase environment. Say, for example, this was a paid client, for example. She's showcasing her garments. At the same time, she wants to showcase the environment it is. I don't think it's right for me to put them on a plain white background. I want them to be in the actual scene of the shoot, this proposed shoot that she wants to portray, right? I could also, for my own personal portfolio, go completely portrait on this. So it's not a wide angle, it's completely portrait on them. So I'm getting less of this background,
Yeah.
yeah?
Because the color.
Personal
is different,
preference,
different
personal.
environment.
Again, another thing, black is popping. So it's, I don't know if you guys at the back can see it, that they pop against that background. So it is a bit completely your preference. Just to rewind, good understanding of your subject and intent of your shoot. Conceptual planning is either deliberate or factual. Deliberate is exactly what we did for the Alpha Festival and for the A7R5 launch, where we built up a concept. Factual is what I'm going to show you next. And understanding the lighting you want to use or going to be used at the shoot. And it is a process of creating the ultimate shot. So out of that whole day of shooting with the R5 in that museum, I walked out of there with about 500 images, but I only liked 5.
Yeah.
I only liked 5, right? So don't be hard on yourself. The client will love the images and you might just be like, no. Oh, but I'm happy you're happy. Go with it. We walk out of every weddings not expecting photos from that wedding as a portfolio. There's a handful. That's why I showcased a handful of images. And it's completely normal. Don't be hard on yourself.
Yep.
The mic doesn't
There we go.
like you.
No, it's working. And one, just to add on to what Fatimah said as well, when it comes to your portfolio, we've seen a lot of people post everything. And when you start posting too many pictures, your brand kind of dissolves slightly. So what Fatimah said earlier, for your portfolio, you need to be extremely critical of yourself, because you only display your best work. And your best work is not mediocre work. I mean, we're all creatives here. There's a lot of talent. And as long as you honed your skill, people will come and they'll hire you. But how do they get to hire you? By seeing your work. So you only display your best work. So even if you walk away from a shoot with 500 images, if you only like 5, those are the 5 that you showcase. That's it. I think there's too many of the same thing happening where there's 5 brilliant images, but they posted 50 images and those 5 images just disappear into the background. because you post those 5 images after 25 shots, and people are just scrolling by then. They're just going past the images. So then they're not actually seeing those 5 images you want them to see.
At the same time, as interesting as that sounds, no offense, but you need to put your. Don't go and choose the images that you've always shot before. Choose. Did you choke?
Because I knew I shot every day.
Yeah. Don't choose the images you shot before. Leave a function with 5 images in mind that you've tried for the first time. The client doesn't know about it, but you tried for the first time. And then look forward to editing those images. When you look forward to editing your images after a shoot, you did really well. You did really well. So get yourself to that point. And if it's seldom, it's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with you. But if you live in an event looking at images that you shot before and you're so excited about it, you are in your comfort zone and you're in danger zone. Because you will never come out of that comfort zone if somebody doesn't force you or push you. Right? Okay, so I mentioned deliberate and factual conceptual planning. This is an example of factual. Her name is Tamari Kudita. She is the Sony Open Photographer of the Year in 2021. Please go and follow her. She is an amazing, amazing artist, a fine art photographer based in Zimbabwe, who's been invited to Harvard College to talk about her art and what inspires her. And she was featured at Exposure for 2024. She has done amazingly well, and humble, humble soul that is willing to talk to anybody and share advice. But basically, her history, quickly, if you go onto Instagram, you'll see more, but just on the surface, her family history inspired her. Her 3 times great-grandfather was a white man from Europe, and he married her 3 times great-grandmother, who was a black maid, right? And she carried that history into her photographs by hiring models that can depict the style. And she took those images in black and white. And she also had her first gallery showcase where she showcased it in those very antique frames, like how they would in that day and age. So she herself is an inspiration. This is all coming from being observant. And she found it at home. As simple as that, at home, that the history starts there. This was her winning image, where she combined African Victorian style, still working in the fields, but dressed up like a queen. And she's amazingly making it worldwide with her art. The rest of her gallery is based on the same theme, African Victorian. And what's very interesting to note there is the detail she pays into the garments, the outfits, and the type of models she uses. She actually uses real people. This one is a model, but there's a few where she's using real people in her shoots. So basically, being a versatile photographer, you have a balance of maintaining your lighting to be nice and soft, and then at the same time also being dramatic. That is the purpose. All you natural light photographers, no offense, but you need to learn artificial lighting. All right. Again, it makes you very versatile, whether you are working indoors or out, and you have full control of the lighting on your subject. These are both one light. These are all the fairy lights that was around the bride on the stage, using a 70 to 200 mm lens, where you zoom in, you light with the strobe, with the grid on it. The grid is the honeycomb grid, and it directs her completely onto that garment. Again, in a white dress, so it will automatically reflect more light on her. And end of the day, you know where you're focusing your viewer's eyes towards. Any questions before we get into
How
demo?
much the lens?
Huh?
The lens you use?
70 to 200. The Sony, yeah, f2.8. f2.8, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, sure.
In outdoor, we can easily capture the photos and set our white balance easily. But in a hall or in a like as a wedding photographer on stage, we have different colors like red, blue from left and right. How to set a single light with a single light on the stage? How to set with a single light?
Okay, so the normal part of the reception where there's speeches and stuff like that, we have our strobes on wood umbrellas, right, to fill in as much the deco lights. But when it comes to the creative part of it, we try not to let those lights shine onto the subject. We'll move it towards the deco lights, towards the deco behind the subject. And then it's full on strobe light on the subject. We only work on auto white balance. It's way easier to deal with, especially dealing with skin tones. And then in post-production, the AI in Lightroom is absolutely amazing right now, so it can recognize your white balance easily. But if you focus on another one question, your camera color space, what do you have it set on? Adobe RGB or sRGB? Adobe, perfect. So that also helps with, with your post-production part of it. But the emphasis is, before you take the shot, see what is going to obstruct your subject. I know as photographers, we're very afraid of touching certain things on the stage because we don't want to offend the deco artist or we don't want to offend the client. But when you come to this point of building trust and explaining to them that there's times when I'm just going to move the lights away for now, you build that reputation of, okay, they know what they are doing. They know how to get the shot. But don't stress it. Try it. Move the lights away from the subject, as long as your background gets lit perfect, and focus one light. The other thing as well is the size of your diffuser or your light shaping tool is very important. With a big stage, something, say the size of this wall, a beauty dish is not going to work. It depends. You rather go with something that's like a 90 centimeter octobox, right? And at that point, it's just you and the subject that you're focusing on. The guests are all eating or busy doing their own thing, but don't stress about blocking the view. You need to get your shot. There's certain times you put your foot forward that you need to get the shot.
And sometimes the backlight is the harder.
Okay.
We use the same light that we turn the face
Okay.
of the light.
You shoot for the ambient. So your subject will be black, completely in shadow. You shoot for the ambient, so you set in your ambient lighting. If your camera is capable of HSS, high speed sync, then you got all control in your hands. But if if your camera cannot handle HSS, you sit in at a 200th of a second, and then you're going to work your ISO. But if you find that your ISO is in your specific camera is not going to help at, say, 1,200, then lower it to like 1,000, but pump your strobe light, the power of your strobe light, right? How do you base first? Do you choose your aperture first when it comes to that setup? Or do you choose ISO? ISO. Work on aperture, because that's how much of the client, the subject you want. So if you are shooting with, say for example, a prime lens, a 35mm prime lens, you're very safe at 2.8, 3.2. You're very safe, right? And prime lenses gives you the freedom to be that creative. 2.8, you see the tricky part now is to give you exact settings. No, I can suggest to you a range you can work with, and then you build it from there, right? So if you're sitting on a 3.2 aperture, and you can only sit at 200th of a second with your lighting, Then you play with your ISO, see how the image looks at 800, if it helps to expose the whole setting perfectly. Once you get your exposure right, then you bring in your key light and how much of power of your key light is going to go on your subject.
I should make the setting before putting the lighting?
Expose for your ambient. Because if you're going to expose for your subject, you're going to blow out your ambient. So how do you get, let me look up a picture.
I actually think we can actually demo that.
Yeah,
That'll be
yeah.
part of the demo session.
Usually I put the lighting, then I make my settings.
Yeah, we'll do a demo on that. Then I think it's easy to understand in once we start doing that. Yeah.
Let me just get the models out.
And just to recap as well, it's very important to know your gear properly. You need to know how far you can push your gear in every situation. So don't get to a shoot and then try and practice or try something new. You try something new in your spare time so
let me
that
just
on
work
your
with
paid
her
shoots,
for
you
now.
know exactly what to
And
do.
I'll call you in. Take a seat. They can turn, but it will be projected onto the screen as well. They can look at both, whatever helps them. If you guys want to turn your chairs, you can. Be comfortable. Gee, please. Do you have, do you want to do the light demo? The LEDs are there. So we need to switch those ones. This one. Okay, that's fine. We're going to do a quick light demo. Just move this out of the way for now. That's fine, we can wait. Do you need a softbox on it? No.
We just want to use the LED panel just to show a few of the concepts.
1 second,
Right.
I need those lights off.
Uh,
Are we able to take the backlights off? Will you be okay?
I don't know if the guys at the back can see this one though.
I think it's, okay, wait. Yeah. I'll do this.
Just turn that over to them now.
I'll do this.
So
Sorry if I block
can
you.
we get those ones and these ones off as well? We just want as little ambient to fall on mono. Yeah, these ones at the back, if you can. Oh, okay. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, let me just take the space.
The ones at the back.
At the back.
Ah, there we go. So, they were off. They were off now. Perfect.
No, that's fine. I just need to adjust this so they'll be able to see it on the screen.
Just, I think, bring it a bit closer as
Just
well.
lower it if you can, please. Please. That's perfectly fine. That's perfect. Yeah, super. I can take it a little bit lower. Yeah, there we go. Drop it lower. There.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Should I move it closer?
Yeah, you're fine. So if you look at the screen, we just want to showcase how positioning your light actually before you start. Obviously, you've got this concept that you have in mind. But if I were to, let me just move that cursor. Just move the cursor off of this. Yeah, perfect.
Wait, let me just do that.
Okay, if you look at the screen now, you see where the shadows?
Let me do that.
You're standing in front of it. See where the shadows are falling as the light moves, and look at the hot spots as well. So that light is a bit harsh because it's not diffused and it's quite close by, and it's a small light source. But it's important to understand how the light, how light works, how it bends, how to soften it. And also, if you look at portraiture for females, for example, normally there's quite big eyelashes. So those are small things that you need to take into consideration. If you position the light in a certain way, those eyelashes might even just create shadows under the eyes that you don't want. So that's when you need to look at, do I bring in either a second light or even a reflector. And we've used, because we predominantly use one light, we have reflectors as well. So that reflector would be held underneath the subject's face so that it bounces light back up again.
Just 1 second. Can we have the reflector, please?
The reflector was here earlier.
This is another thing I just want to emphasize based on a networking perspective. Right? Sorry if you guys can't see me. But ladies, when it comes to portrait photography, networking is about helping the team in the photo. So if you look at this model, can you count how many other service providers or vendors participated in this whole look? Hairstyle, makeup, dress, probably shoes, right? If you can take a gorgeous image of the model, that makeup artist is going to use your image. That hairstylist is going to use the image. The dress designer is going to use the image. You're looking at, say, 5 other platforms your photo is going to be featured on and tagged on, right? So if you can think for the rest of the team as a photographer, when it comes to the networking, you're already promoting your business and your brand. And also thinking forward that I need to think of everybody else, because networking is the strongest when it comes to this industry and this profession as well, right? So we're going to add some fill in.
A little bit of full.
See her chin.
You can see it enough though. But if I remove it,
Just look at her chin in specific, her chin.
you see the difference that makes?
So if you're going to focus on one shot, one portrait image of the subject can be broken down into 3 other shots. So it's a headshot where you showcasing hair and makeup, and you can pose it in such a way that it showcases it even better, right? You can, yeah, in the demo we'll show you. But think forward of your shots. Don't just think of full length, that I'm here to shoot for the designer and that's it. Build up more images that you can share with the rest of the team, and you know they're going to also share it, right? Okay, so when you look at makeup, another trick, false eyelashes. What's happening with this kind of shot? You're getting a very deep shadow here under her eye, right? So when you do move your light, think about the spots on her face that's going to carry a lot of shadow. If it's going to be placed somewhere here, her eyes are looking too dark. See where the shadows are falling. It gives her gorgeous cheekbones, but it's not going to help. Makeup artists are not going to be too thrilled about that because you can't see her eye makeup properly, right? So think about those shots, right? And the next lighting.
Let me just get this off. Just give me 1 second. One thing as well is, do not be afraid of using a reflector. Because we use predominantly the one light setup, a reflector is similar to having 2 lights. If we find that there's the light being at 45 degrees to the model, to the person, to your subject, if you add a reflector on the opposite end of the subject, you're basically reflecting light back onto them. So you can have a little bit of unevenness in your lighting, which is actually what we prefer. Because otherwise, if your lighting is flat, it's not too flattering. So a lot of times we will have it 45 degrees to the model. We'll fill in with a reflector, which is not going to be as hard as or as strong as the key light. So you're going to have that little bit of shadow. That adds depth to your images. Flat images are not very flattering. And it's very easy to fall into the trap. a lot of product shoots, for example, where they want to showcase the hijab or the garment, that calls for flat images because all you're doing is showcasing. But when you start your creative imaging, that's when you work with light. And one of the important things when it comes to portraiture as well is watch the shadows. Don't get rid of the shadows. The shadows is what adds dimension to your image. If you blow out all your shadows, again, it just flattens the image.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Size of the light source, just as important. You all could see that basic, this size wasn't good enough, right? So the larger your light source, a little bit more softer you're going to make the shot. And more of the subject is going to pop. As you can see, there's a bit of separation. Everything else about the image is done for deco purposes, just to make it look interesting other than just it being a flattish shot. But for now, I just want to take a shot with this. If I can work it. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Do
talk.
you think that putting the light from the down and putting it like this, it's gonna be more shiny for? It's more lighting.
You want to
neck?
reflect some light up.
I want to show the neck beauty, so I think she needs the light from the down.
From the
so
bottom.
we can light her neck.
Yeah, that's the process now that you have to go with as a photographer. You work with, you got the ambient lighting of the shot, as you can see, right? And then you're going to add in your key light. So this light can move. You can have it directly in front of her, and you'll just see how the shadows just complement her features. If you want to help the lighting from the bottom, you can add on another light, but you need to now know how to balance all of the light that's falling on her. How strong are you going to have that light? Are you going to use a light source that's big or quite small just to help fill in more? Do you not want to add contour to her face? So more shadow as well helps with that contour and that gorgeous jawline. Completely your call. Absolutely your call. But you just need to work now. This is exactly how you approach portrait photography. It's playing around with the lighting scenario to see what fits exactly what you want out of that shot. Okay. Can I just take this off the stand? I'm useless at this. I think it'll be better if I just work with it freely. Yeah, that one. This one. This one. This one. This one. Which one?
Also consider, depending on what kind of light you want to use on your subject, you need to consider your light modifier.
One second.
In the beginning, we used the beauty dish a lot. Now, a beauty dish on its own, that's not diffused. It's very hard light. But for fashion photography, that hard light actually works nice in terms of showing detail in your image, or in your garment, I should say. So what we ended up doing was, because our style of wedding photography and wedding portraiture was more fashion-based, we used a beauty dish that was softened with a sock that just covers the beauty dish. So you're not getting the extreme harshness of a beauty dish, but you're not getting the extreme softness of a softbox. So it falls somewhere in between. So for our style of portraiture, it worked perfectly. So again, you need to look at what kind of image you want out there. So that would dictate, for example, the lens you're using, the light source you're using, or the type of light you're using, and your modifier. Those are things you consider when setting up these shots.
Do we have our SD card?
In the back.
Yeah. Okay, I just changed the lens into a 50 mil. So you can see all the settings. Okay, so what we can do, okay, we're working with constant light, so that's fine. I find it to be too bright. I am just crouching for everybody's view behind me. Okay, so I am shooting with the R5, the Sony A7 R5. I put on the 1.2 50mm. I'm going to shoot it at f1.2, and I'm going to zoom in to show you the detail. So constant light is a little bit easier compared to working with strobes. Again, at f1.2, I wanted some separation from the background. The background is a bit lit. We can go ahead and switch off the light on my left side. As you can see, he comes in very handy. You can hire him, it's not a problem. We would love to come in and work in Kuwait.
We're here till Thursdays, guys. I'm not cheap though. I'm not cheap.
Just hold on to the button, it'll switch off.
There we go. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
This shadow in the photo, with the lots of shadow, is it fine to keep this shadow, you know, the dark side? Is it okay? Or we should make
This is one example.
Yeah, just
now,
an example.
Now we'll add lights to this.
And lights it. At the same time, see, like, this is a test shot. If you find that the shadow is not too good, you can change her pose completely. So if we do change your pose, I would like you to have your feet on that stand. Like, if you just relax your feet. So you angle your body towards the light for me, right? Okay, are you able, perfect, lean forward onto that arm for me. Let your chin move 45 degrees that direction, perfect. You can look straight ahead there towards the audience, fantastic. Beautiful, just relax the shoulders for me, sweetheart. I got it. Yeah, I got one, thanks. Beautiful. I am taking the shot for the lighting purpose, so just ignore the framing, because the framing can be easily adjusted in post-production, right? Okay, so yeah, you understand? So it's not also, don't feel that your light has to stay there. You have a choice. You can move your subject. She's flexible, your light is flexible. So it's easy for you. Don't feel you're stuck in that situation that, oh, I need to go hire more lights. No. It has, the other type of position we like to leave our light is going to be slightly higher than the subject, pointing down towards her. At this point we have, is there a grid? Perfect, there's a grid on it. So what the grid does, it directs it beautifully directly onto her. It focuses just on her, as compared to without the grid where it spills a lot more, right?
That's one thing as well. When setting up your modifier, especially with the grid, the reason we use the grid a lot is a lot of times you don't want light spill on anything else. So this modifier ungridded, the light spreads out. The minute you use the grid, the light becomes very, very directional. And it adds a bit of contrast to the image as well.
So the other thing about the Sony cameras that we love to do is the R5 is a 61 megapixel camera. And all of the full frame mirrorless Sony cameras have a feature called Super 35 mode. Super 35 mode is basically a mode that accommodates for those photographers that still want to use their crop sensor, the lenses for crop sensor, right? What I do, it's a cheat mode, if you want to copy it. I use it as a zoom in feature. If I want to get in a little bit closer, because sometimes with wedding photography, I'm just going to take the shot quickly. And you will see that even at 61 megapixels, your quality is still amazing.
Sorry, that should actually be 26 megapixels.
It drops down to 26 megapixels because you're using it in crop sensor mode. In wedding photography, it comes in very handy. If I'm standing a bit far away from the subject and there's a moment happening and I can't reach it in time with the 35 mil, I activate Super 35 mil. My 35 mil becomes like a 80 mil. 50 mil. Oh yeah, the 50 mil becomes like a 80 mil. And it just gets me a little bit closer. And I'm not losing much detail when it comes to resolution. Right? Okay, so what else we're going to do is,
I think we just want to bring the second model in as well.
Yes.
So when you start adding to your set,
Yeah.
whether it's another model or other props, you need to also consider where the position of your light is going to be, because now you focus is not going to be solely on one person as such. So by introducing a second model, we would move this light slightly back so that your coverage is a bit more.
Yeah. Where's our second model? Come. Just hold on to that, please.
Also, always interact with the models. Don't expect that the models know what you want from them. We've had a lot of
Swap.
portrait photographers or
You can
guys
sign
that are
it.
starting out in portraiture that that kind of think that if they hire a professional model, it's their job
Use
just to
that as
press
a
the
prop.
shutter button. You direct your
Use it
model.
as a prop.
And the minute you start directing the model, you kind of get the images that you want.
Oops.
And this comes from experience. A lot of the models actually tell us that
That's fine.
they don't like working with photographers who do not direct them. So the model doesn't know what you want.
Another
So you communicate with the model, like Fatima was doing earlier.
Another thing as well is ask the models, if you find you don't have time running back and forth between your camera setup and where the models are standing, ask the models if they are in the frame of the octobox, of the light source, right? If they can see that they are within this frame, there is light falling, but I feel it's going to cut here for her, right? You can add in a reflector, another extra light. Another thing as well, can you stand up for me, Seraz? Height difference. So when you look at your models, no offense, but when you look at your models as well, also assess when it comes to your posing. Sometimes it's not going to work because one is taller than the other or they both are tall, so how are you going to fit them in a frame? So the challenge here was we are working in a tight space. How are we going to make it work? Majority of the time as photographers, you're not working in a best case scenario. You have to be ready for the worst case scenario. And it's about kitting your bag with a wide zoom lens, a zoom lens, and a prime to see what's going to work in the space. Right now I'm working with the 50mm. It helps me. It might limit me with long shots, tall shots, standing up shots like this. It's going to limit me. At the same time, I have a backdrop that's not as tall. So am I going to end up using Photoshop to extend the background? How much of work is there going to be for me in post-production? But at the same time, how much of work am I going to put into this to make my post-production a much more easier, right? So you got to improvise on the spot. Not depend on the client to tell you these things, but you as a director slash poser slash fashion stylist, how are you going to direct the shot, right? So for now, I'm just going to keep them nice and compact close to the seat. So if you can sit down, back to your pose. We're using this prop here to showcase more of the garment. Claudia, you can stand a little bit closer to her. All right. Will I be able to shoot this at f1.2? What do you guys think? Focused on who? The model standing or the model sitting?
They were the same line and the distance is good.
So do you think for the setup I'll be able to use 1.2? Okay, let's do it. I'll put you up for the challenge, right?
If you're right, this man needs a voucher. Right?
Okay, I'm going to do this in portrait mode. Excuse the video footage. When I take the picture, then you'll be able to see the final image. Can't even see that top. Okay. So which model must I focus on? The one sitting?
We cannot do for the both.
Let's zoom in on this. She's beautiful in focus. And her? It's soft. You won't say out of focus, it's soft.
But so what do you suggest?
We cannot put you
To keep it on f1.2, how would you fix
I
it
don't
then?
need that advanced. Let a lady pull
Put
the
them
camera
closer
and
to each
probably
other.
do it.
And the same line,
cameras have this.
perfect
Yes, it
distance.
does. Actually. We can see now. Okay, so
That's very important to know as well. Suggestion is to keep the models on the same plane, basically, focus plane.
Forward.
So if we bring the second model
in line
forward,
with her shoulder.
there we go.
Yeah. What you can do is for me is turn 45 degrees. Yeah. Put your left leg forward, so you're creating some shape with your hip. Forward towards her. Yeah, so it's a case of, it's demo session, everyone. Let me show you. Stand one side for me. One side. I just want a demo. So basically 45 degrees towards them. Let this leg come out. So now you're in line with her shoulder. You can either have your hand on her shoulder like this, or just have it, have it here, right?
And then also, if you can come forward so that you can, there we go, just so that your faces are kind of in line with each other. That would reduce the softness on the second model.
Sure. Right. Keep your body in line with your 45 degrees and your chin towards me, sweetheart. A little bit more. Your chin, sweetheart. Chin, yeah, there we go. The leg that's forward, lean towards her. There we go. Perfect. Let your left hand come nice and soft as a diamond shape up with the leg here. See your left hand, pull it up. There, perfect. There we go. Brilliant. Come towards me, love. Slightly, not too much. There we go. Sorry guys, I have to focus on the screen just to get the shot, but we can just ignore the backdrop for now. I'm going to focus on her. Let's see if we can win with this. Right. Okay. So we got however, perfect.
But notice one thing as well, guys. You see, notice the difference of light falling on each of the models. The model standing, because of how she's positioned, according to the played against the direction of the light, there's more shadow, more contrast on her, as compared to the model that's sitting. So that again is personal preference. If you want even lighting on all of them, you would then either need to add another light, add a reflector, or just change the pose slightly so that it's more directed towards the light.
Can we have that light on at the back? Back to the pose. Now, pose towards me, chin at me. Let's see if you can notice the difference. Let's move your chin towards me, love. A little bit more. There we go. Okay, so let's have a look. Oh, okay. I just want to showcase the lighting for this one, right? So you guys remember that shot? Right? Let me just zoom in on that. That shot, right? Compared to that shot. More light falling on her side of her face. You're getting more light, more ambient light. So if you want to create it a little bit more moody, you can expose more for the ambient light. Right? You want me to now to focus on her. Okay, super. Okay, lean towards her for me, sweetheart. Yeah, perfect. Chin towards me, eyes in the camera. In line. Do you understand now the same plane? Yeah. You have them close together on the same plane.
And one thing I just want to point out as well, if you look at the light falling on the model standing, you've got a little bit of Rembrandt lighting, whereas the light, again, falling on the model that's sitting is a bit more, not split, but it's a bit more flat light.
Yeah,
so it shows you don't need to move your modifier sometimes to get two different types of lighting falling on your subjects. It's just another way of, again, if you only have one light setup, these are things you need to start picking up on or working towards.
And also you can see that the original layout and plan of the lighting setup was to have the two backlights. I deliberately put this one off. When that first shot came where the standing model was completely in shadow, I already had a backup, which was my backlight. So there's nothing wrong with being prepared in advance, whether you use the light or not. You are prepared, so you're not going to stress about it. So having the reflector at hand or an extra light at hand, nothing wrong with that. You're just playing it safe. Because we can envision the shot, and then at the studio or on location, it's just not working out. You got a backup. You got your lights there to help you out, right? So again, as Seraz said, it's completely your customer or client's call as to how they want. Your client can say, no, I want drama. Drama brings on shadow, mystery, right? Or contrasty images. And then you can have a client who's like, no, I want her face to show completely. So you need to light her up, or you're welcome, in every way possible to not only showcase the garment, but they want to see that it's a gorgeous model standing there or person standing there, etc. Right? So it's a very flexible, as long as you know your lighting situation and what you are capable of putting at that shoot. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, sure.
I just want to ask if does it differ if I use the continuous light or a flashlight?
Yeah.
Because I have a flashlight.
You have a strobe.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, it does. It does. Because there you got to control now the power of that light and how much of light you want on them, right? We were going to have a strobe, but then for demo purposes, this is way more convenient.
There is a slight difference, like Fatima said, right? But the basics are still the same when it comes to lighting, whether you're using continuous light or a strobe. Your exposure, your settings are going to be kind of similar. This, like Fatima said, this is just here because once you guys start using it's difficult to move a remote, a trigger around. So yeah, no one uses a trigger, but your basics are going to be the same.
Okay, sorry.
What's your favorite, the continuous or the strobe?
Strobe.
We prefer the strobe, yeah. We prefer the strobe. Videographers don't like it because it kind of messes up some of their videos. So and it's a good point that you raised there. And because you're not always working by yourself, you need to consider if for example, your portrait session, if the client hired a videographer as well. Continuous light works good for them, but if you're using a strobe, what we normally do is we actually just tell them, get the footage you want out of this one scene, and then we'll do it. In that way, it shows that we respect them as well, and then it works both ways.
I just want to go back to your original question about exposing for the can we have all these lights off? All these lights off. I just want to, she wanted to know about exposing for your... We're going to take it step by step. Okay, leave this one on. Let's pretend that's a window and there's shadow falling on the background. We'll pretend. That one as well. Okay, perfect.
I love playing with the lighting, that's why I have lots of questions.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. Right now, this is your scenario. At f1.2, are we happy with that screen, guys? Okay. Okay, wait, let me just rather do this. As you can see, there's shadow at the back, there's a backlight there, you got no scene of or any light on your subject. That's, your phone is lying to you, by the way. Yeah, your phone is lying to you. So we take the shot, right? And that's your scene right now. So let's put the backlights on. Okay. That's your scene now where you, Seraz, one request. Can this light go slightly higher? Yeah, please. Perfect. That's fine. And we might have to just pump the strength on that. It's fine, it's fine. Okay, so we add on the backlights. As you can see, it's still not good enough. We're getting light falling on the model that's standing. Not good enough, right? The key lights. So now this is where you got control. Okay, wait, before you do that, Seraz, let's adjust for the ambient, right? We can go, let's go a little bit more dramatic. Okay, let's bring in the key light. Oh, one press, don't hold it down. There. That's your key light, right? We can see now, because we move the light slightly higher, there's less light falling on the model that's sitting down, right? We can improvise by adding another light that will shine towards her, or we can add this reflector that's big enough. And let's hope it's not in the way. So if I'm going to take like a headshot, so are we winning?
Your reflector, you need to also consider obviously the size of the reflector, and then that will dictate the kind of shot you're going to have a second light. And this is your only option. For example, if we need the light reflected, we would need to bring it in quite close. So
Take it away. Just look at the side of her face where the shadow is really prominent.
move the focus.
Yeah. I need to focus on her.
No, just show the light.
Yeah, okay, 1 second. There. Move it away. Can you guys see that? Move it
There's
closer.
this light isn't strong enough, but if you were to pump it up or take the grid off, you can see that it brings in a bit of fold, a little bit of fold on that side. If I were to take it away, it's not ideal because you need a bit more light reflected. So in this situation, we would actually look at getting another light just from the side, perhaps, just to fill in.
I think the small light will work
That's
better.
what I'm doing now.
Can we possibly, Siraj, can we, sorry, let's fill with a small light. No, it's the other smaller one, the other one.
Seraz, we have this strobe light if you need.
Oh, we're just going to use this. This will demo purpose to show.
Strobe you need?
No, not now. Fine. Just keep it there though.
Okay.
Take it away. Okay, let me take the shot with this. Okay, so we don't have a light at the bottom for this shot. Okay, let's pump that a little bit more. Okay, keep it as it is. And now take the shot, put the light. Okay, just hold on. Okay, so that's without the, don't worry, excuse the model's eyes, but that's Instagram pictures. That's without full light, and that's with full light.
So full light, that's up the eyes as well.
Yeah, it got a bit bright for her. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing to notice as well is
So also direct your chin towards me this way. No, towards me, love. There we go.
notice the lights fall and the shadows on the second one, right, when I introduce it. It might not be visible, but it's something you need to consider as well when introducing light from a different direction.
One more picture.
You need the light?
Yeah, full it. Let me just frame it.
So again, if we take it higher, you see the shadows are
Okay.
changing.
See, the other thing as well is that can work. I don't want to shake that so much. The standing model, because the light went higher, the light is a bit above her eye, so she's going to get some shadow here. So what I'm going to do is move your chin, love, towards me. Chin up. There. Okay, so move your chin away. Let me just take that shot as it was earlier. Perfect. At me, sweetheart. There we go. And now move it towards me, up. Drop it a little bit more. There we go. So a simple thing as repositioning your model. Simple. Just so you can have a full face that's lit up.
That also shows that don't need to sometimes change the position of your light to get different types of light on the model's face. Again, it comes with communication between you and the model.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You can't expect her to know that. So you need to, again, it's a case of directing and telling the model exactly what you want. And again, it becomes easier the more often you do it. So it's all about going there and gaining that experience by shooting all the time, or as often as you can.
Questions? Okay, my throat is sore now. Let's talk, more play. So we're going to play. The gear is available for you guys to play along. We are all here to help you with the Sony gear. The models are all yours. You're welcome. So help yourself. We are here for questions as well. Is there anything else you guys want us to demo?
I just want to ask about the lens.
The 50mm prime. Yeah, it's a 50mm prime, f1.2.
You need that lens.
Yeah. You need this lens, you need the 35mm, you need the 85mm. You need So a personal preference with me is, Seraz, can you hold this please? Thank you. Personal preference with me over the years is I think this is also another thing that's very vital when it comes to creatives, and give yourself the opportunity to try all the lenses. And when you get a feel of the lenses, from there you can build your personal go-to kit. So with us, it was exposure to the 24-70, the 16-35, 70-200, and all the primes. I eventually landed on the primes. I love my primes. Seraz, on the other hand, is completely different. He loves his 24-70 and 16-30. He can't decide what focal length he wants. But the prime for me works. I can shoot a whole wedding with a 35mm, everything with a 35mm. Because I familiarize myself with the venue, my space. I'm also very realistic. If I know that I'm going to be shooting in a venue that's tight, then I'll kit myself with the 24-70. But 80% of the time, I'm so familiar with my prime lenses, I know in which scenario I can work it. Yeah.
You say in the beginning, usually you use only one light for photography in the wedding style. So you use the manual system in the flash or in the compact flash, or you use TTL?
You're referring to
The mode, the shoot.
Yeah, the light, like the speed light or the compact light, when you use it as a
Yeah.
flash one.
Oh, the flash one.
Which mode do you use usually?
We shoot everything manual.
Manual. Everything's manual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we try
manual.
we try not to get too automated in any of our settings. The only setting that we leave on auto, and that's, look, I'm a Sony guy. The trust for white balance of the Sony is so much that the professional lab that we print at, they always ask us how we always get the colors right. We never set custom white balance. So
What does gear mean?
know your gear.
I didn't understand. You repeat it many times. Understand your gear.
Certain type of color light falling on your subject. So you know that the light falling on your subject is warm. How do you balance that out with artificial light?
That's your camera.
The white balance of the camera takes care of the rest. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't
The
use
camera and the lenses.
when we edit, it's we don't edit because we try and keep that formula off.
Tell you.
Get it right. So there are times where you put the white balance light, which is normal with everything, but it's not a big pull. It's just slight adjustment. We know what the color of the dress is. Once the color of the dress is right, all the other colors will fall into place.
We got a question here.
How can you know it's a good picture in the camera?
How do you know?
It's a good picture in the camera because you're supposed to have this.
If you're shooting with Sony, you're not going to have an issue.
I am naked user. I object.
We'll take this outside. If it's a good camera, that's the thing I've been emphasizing on is get to know your gear. And once you know how far you can push your gear, you'll automatically pick up from your viewing if the image is good enough. Again, it's a case of when you say how good it is, what are you basing it on? Lighting, clarity,
This is my question. How can I know this?
eyes in focus. If the eyes are in focus, you win in, right? That's when you know you hitting it sharp on what they call it? Anyway, on target, right? And then you look at, if you want to judge it from a lighting perspective, you got to see if any other light in that scenario is disturbing your subject. And if it is disturbing your subject, that means if I look at your picture and I'll be like, just remember, light in your picture is what's going to draw the viewer's eye to it, right? Yeah. So if your backlight is too strong, for example, if this was overexposed, the backlight in those images, it distracts you completely. So you know now you need to go back. They might be in focus, but still the image is not captivating. It's disturbing. So now you know you need to go back to how you are exposing for the image. Yes, sweetheart.
As a beginner, which camera you recommend? And
As a beginner,
yeah, I need to
learn.
learn more and more shots.
Tricky.
Not expensive camera. Let's start with many shots and to become.
I'm going to make you look 3 steps further. You are a beginner, I completely understand that. But if you can look 3 steps further, you'll understand why you got to spend that money now. If I tell you to buy a starter kit, and I'm not going to mention brands, but if you try out a starter kit, you need to ask yourself, is this gear going to help me to improve my skill and not get frustrated, right? If the gear is not going to make you get frustrated, is the gear going to last you for more than, say, 7 to 10 years? Where it's going to build your passion and you know you're going to be excited to take photos with this camera? Invest in it. Invest in it. With the Sonys, the A7C ranges are amazing.
A7.
A7C Mark II and
A7 III.
C.
A7
C.
C.
Yeah, the letter C. Mark II. Right? 33 megapixels, amazing. It's quite nice, very nice. Guys, the models are open for shooting and experimenting. Only Sony gear. I'm joking. I got my eye on you. Hey, you too. But please, the model is here for you guys to play with, experiment, and I'm here for questions. I'm just going to get off this. Thank you. One second. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We are here for questions, guys. And just another thing, guys, there on my right-hand side, that's your left-hand side, there's a table there full of Sony gear and kit. If you have a Sony camera body on you, your own personal one, go try out the lenses. We have all the Mark II lenses. And there's also camera bodies there as well. Perfect.